Are you thinking about starting your own PT clinic? There is one thing that nobody is going to tell you about what it takes to be successful. It's not sales, it's not marketing, and it's not your systems and processes. Before we start though, 99% of you guys that are watching this on YouTube are not subscribed. What are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe button and follow along.
Let me tell you a story. I've not always been the kind of person who can run and own a business. I haven't even always been the kind of person that could have a manager position within someone else's business. My whole life, I grew up insecure. I felt behind. I looked up to everyone, like not just adults, peers. I thought peers were better than me. I thought they were smarter than me. I thought I was missing something. So I acted like it. I had insecurity. I didn't like making my own decisions. I constantly sought validation from other people. And that's a huge problem because in school, you get grades. Those are validation. That is a form of feedback that you get that you are doing a good job and that this one role that you have in life right now during this season, that you're doing good, that you're doing well at it. And so I was really good at being a student. When I got out into my first job, I had no idea what I was doing. I lost my source of validation because, by the way, if any surprise, you don't get grades in life. You have to provide your own validation. And so when I was seeking that, I would go have conversations with my boss because I had all this anxiety. I was insecure about any decisions that I was making. I was insecure about my life in general and what I wanted to do and choosing this or choosing that when it came to even picking my job or just making any decisions like, oh, am I going to go to the gym today? And so I cried a lot. I had massive doubt, massive insecurity, and just this crippling anxiety that was making my life unenjoyable. And it's because of the level that I was at. I had to level up as a human in order to move past that season of my life. And if I hadn't made a lot of changes, I would have stayed in that season. I would still be binging Netflix on the weekends and drinking because I felt insecurity and seeking validation and approval from other people. I wouldn't be able to run my own business. And so the things that changed to get me out of that season were I started to challenge myself physically, go to the gym more regularly. I started challenging myself intellectually. I wanted to be a better PT. I had imposter syndrome. I didn't know what I was doing. I started taking continuing education courses. And over time, challenging myself physically and intellectually, I started to build a reputation with myself that was positive. My self-worth started to increase, and so then my confidence increased. And when that happened, I became a different person. I started playing at a different level, and I had, in fact, leveled up. So now, if we look at what's happened since I was crying and having anxiety with my boss at my first job, I realized I was unhappy. I looked at other positions. I was like, oh, there's nothing that makes me happy. So I'm actually just going to go solo, make my own business, go out, market, meet all these people, do all these things that I'm uncomfortable doing, and do it well. So I had a solo business. I now have a partner. I lead, manage, and hold people accountable in our company, and I make decisions and stand by them. And it's not because fear isn't a thing, it's because I have the confidence to push through it. So what does all this have to do with business? Everything. Nobody will tell you that it's personal growth, that it's who you have to become, the habits that you have to build, the lessons that you have to learn. And you have to challenge yourself in every way that scares you because the things that you're fearful of are the things that are keeping you from going on to that next level.
And that's it. That is the thing that nobody is going to tell you about success, about business success, financial success, and that is that it piggybacks on the back of massive personal development. And along that journey of personal development, you're going to lose friends. When I was younger, I hung out with a bad crowd. Right? They were into drugs and alcohol and doing a bunch of illegal shit. And if I still hung out with them, that's where they would be, right? And then when I decided to outgrow them and join the Marine Corps, I had a different group of friends that were doing something different. And then when I left the Marine Corps and decided to go to college, there's a lot of people that also still didn't fit that bill, and I had to get a new group of friends. And same thing over and over and over through each stage of my life. Yes, there's some people that hung around that kind of fit the bill, but your relationship with them kind of will diminish over time. Your friends, your family, the people that you rely on to support you will doubt you. They will discourage you. I mean, when I first started my business, almost everybody that I told about it was like, you're dumb. Nobody's ever going to pay you cash for physical therapy. They can use their insurance. They're definitely not going to pay you that much. Turns out they were wrong, because people now pay me double that for physical therapy, which is great. But you're going to have to intentionally distance yourself from people as you outgrow them. I've had some really good friends that stuck around with me after the Marine Corps. We went to high school together. We were in Iraq together. I was going through school. We stayed connected. And, as I'm developing myself and growing this business, all we would do when we would hang out is we'd drink, right? It's like, that's not what I want. And that's all they would ever do. So I had to distance myself from them, even though we'd been through combat deployments together. We went through high school together. Those people no longer fit what I needed from people in my life. They didn't fit where I was going. They only fit where I was from, where I was coming from. And anytime that you level up, you're going to have some social circle changes. You're going to have to lose those old habits, right? The old habits of maybe going home and having a drink or two at the end of the day, because now you might have other shit to do. The whatever habits of sleeping in that you have, of binging Netflix and watching movies and being, scrolling endlessly and being up and on the, sports and the gossip and drama with celebrities, if you're into that kind of stuff. You're not going to have time to do that. And if you decide that you want to keep with your habit of hitting snooze in the morning, then, you're saying that your goals really aren't that important. That extra couple minutes of sleep is more important. And if you have that time in the morning dedicated as time to get this important busy work done, and you're deciding to sleep, that's a habit you need to break. You now need to get in the habit of getting right out of bed.
Which is an opportunity for personal growth in small chunks.
Yeah, doesn't have to be these personal growth. Usually doesn't, at least my experience, doesn't come from these massive all of a sudden changes. It starts by saying, nope, I'm not going to hit snooze. Nope, I'm not going to go out tonight. Nope, I'm not going to stay up and watch that extra episode because I've got really important things to do. Nope, I'm not going to have any drinks tonight because I've got to be up early tomorrow and I can't be foggy headed and I don't want to be tired because I've got important goals. You're going to have to surround yourself as you grow with people that are on the same path as you, preferably people that are also ahead of you on that path. So you have new role models to look up to. That's how we all learn how to behave, really, is the examples that are set for us. And I didn't have any examples like that of anybody locally in my family that I knew. I knew zero successful business owners, and nobody in my family really went to college before me. I mean, my sister went to college as well. But that's it. We're the first ones in the family to go to college. And nobody in my family owns businesses or does any of that type of stuff. So, I had to pay to be around those people. And that's okay, right? That's actually a new habit. That is a new trait that I've picked up, is that if I find a group of people that I want to be around, and they're in a mastermind group, or they're a coach or a mentor, or they're putting on an event that I can go to, I'm going to pay to surround myself with those people. And then when I'm in that group, when I'm at that event, when I'm in these meetings, I'm going to put in the work that I have to develop real personal relationships with these people, because those are the people that I want to be around. Those are the people that are on the same path, that have the traits and the habits, and they have the behaviors that I can emulate and I can learn from to get from where I am now one step closer to where I want to be. And that also might just be another group of people that you might at some point outgrow and move beyond. And that doesn't mean that you're better than them and they're less than. It just means that at that point in time, they're maybe not fitting what you want, right? And you have to continually grow and continually surround yourself with people that are also growing, which means you have to be willing to feel dumb, right? You have to be willing to step into an arena that you know nothing about. You have to be willing to be the dumbest one in the room. and say, I don't know, and ask the questions and look up to people and learn from them. If you go into a group of people and you just talk about yourself all the time and you're trying to just teach, you're going to learn, or not teach, just talk and not listen. You're not going to learn anything. You're not going to grow. You have to learn, and that's another trait, by the way, to grow into if you don't have that, of asking questions about people and learning about them and talking a whole lot less about yourself.
Listen first.
Listen first. And then, if somebody's talking and you happen to hear something that you can help out with, you become a go-giver, which is a great book, by the way, by Bob Berg and Michael Mann, The Go-Giver. If you haven't read it, I highly suggest it. Just giving and not expecting anything in return. That's just be that type of person. Grow into that type of person, and then it comes back around. What's really helpful is to make a list of traits of a successful person. Like, think of what your goals are. What do you want? Do you want to have, a cash practice? Okay. Do you want to be a solo provider? Do you want to have employees? Do you want to have multiple locations? Look at that end goal and then list out, hey, if I want to have a chain of practices and I want to have 3 or 4 locations and have 20 employees, what traits does that type of person, does that CEO need to have? Are they timely? Are they fit? Are they respectful? Are they well-spoken? Do they do things when they don't want to do it? Do they prioritize their day and plan? Are they organized? List all of the traits. Like, look around, look at all the examples of everybody that you can find that might fit that role or a similar role, and detail out the traits that they seem to have or that you think they would need to have, and then match yourself up. Like, rate yourself on each one of those traits, honestly. And don't do it for your ego, because everybody likes to rate themselves a little bit higher than they really are. One of our mentors, Bedros, always says, if you think you're a good leader, that's a pretty good sign that you're not. If you're like, yeah, I'm a great leader, I don't need any help with leadership, you're probably a shitty leader. So be really honest with yourself on these things. Nobody's going to see it unless you show them, of course. And then you can have that as a little ledger of the things that you need to improve upon. And then you can write down, all right, what are ways that I can improve on this, and this? And you can go back and you can measure it. And you can actually set goals and track your progress of personal growth. What gets measured gets managed, period. It's very important that you focus on the traits, because traits come before results. You're not all of a sudden going to go from being broke to being a millionaire, unless, of course, you hit the lottery, but most of those people just go right back to being broke pretty quickly.
Because they don't have the habits.
Because they haven't developed the habits and the traits. You're not going to go from being broke to being a millionaire and then get good with money and then start watching what you're spending and then stop doing things. If that's who you are and you win the lottery, you keep doing those things and you end up broke again. If you want to be that person, you have to start off with the habit changes, the behavior change. Just think of anybody that's been obese and is now fit and jacked. They didn't just all of a sudden go from being obese and fit and jacked and then start watching what they eat and then start saying, no, I'm not going to eat that with you, and then start saying, no, I'm not going to drink that, and then start saying, no, can't, I've got to go to the gym. It doesn't work that way. They started with those habits and those traits and those behavior changes with their friends and their family doubting them and telling them, you can have just one, come on, it's just one meal, it's just one day, take a break, you work hard, you deserve it, and all of these things that actually detract from your goals. They developed the trait of not listening to those people and then got the results. I mean, one of the best things that I was ever told was when another mentor turned friend of ours, Danny Mattei, and the whole PT Biz crew, like, Danny took the time out of his day and was like, hey man, I was chatting with the guys and I just want to let you know that we're all just super proud of the growth that you've had as a human since you first started working with us. Like, it's clear as day in who you are and the way you speak and the way you think and the way you act and respond and all of these things. And it's just, we were just having a conversation about it. I just felt like I should let you know. Like, that struck me right in the heart, because that's what I want. If you were to look at me and say, Roger, you have not changed at all in the last year, it's like, you might as well just stab me in the heart, because that's terrible. If you're not growing, then you're what? Dying, right? Or at least going backwards, right? You have to be constantly growing and you have to be putting in the work, which means you've got to do the hard things daily.
And it comes down to, like Roger said, figuring out where you want to be, being honest with yourself of where you are, and then developing a roadmap of how to get there. You're not going to get there if you have blinders on, you don't know which way you're going, but you know where you want to end up. You have to have a plan. You have to have the map to get there. There's a quote that I really like by Teddy Roosevelt called "The Man in the Arena." I actually have a tattoo on my left bicep that says "Daring Greatly." And it says, "It's not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming, but who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least he fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat." This is what everything comes down to. You have to be willing to try. You have to be willing to look stupid or not know what you're doing, because nobody starts out being great at something. There's a learning curve. You have to be willing to swing big, to miss big, and to do it in front of a lot of people. And my hard thing, going back to the very beginning of this podcast, I shared that I had huge insecurities and crippling anxiety and just massive self-doubt. I didn't believe in myself enough to even just make day-to-day decisions confidently. And so that's the hard thing that I do, is I choose to do things and put myself in positions where I feel dumb or where I could potentially feel like I'm not good enough. And that's strategic, because then it continues to build a reputation with myself of, hey, this isn't so bad, I can do it, and I'm doing it. And again, it's all about habit stacking and turning into someone that you know that you need to be, but you're not currently.
Success isn't convenient. You can't only do these things when you feel like it. You have to do it because the things need doing, not because you feel like doing them. Motivation is fleeting. Discipline is lasting.